Hi, everybody. So today we're going to look at our attendance registers. And I am going to show you and send to you a template that you can use for your attendance register. I hope that you can see the screen sharing that I'm doing. And what you're looking at is a year summary on an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just moving it along. So you can see what it looks like. Now, obviously, if you are an organization with children who are coming in to do an after-school program and you need to keep an attendance register, you'd put your own logo here, and you might want to say what program it is, which you would put next to the name of the program. And this is the summary page for the whole year. Here, you would put your first name and surname, and you can decide how you want to do it, whether you want it to be alphabetical order, whether you want it to be alphabetical order in terms of surname, for example. So I'm going to say, yes, I want it to be alphabetical in terms of surnames. I'm going to move this row, and I'm going to actually put it down here. You can see that I've moved it. So we now have Chale, Vilakazi, Zondo. That's alphabetical order, right? Then in the next columns, we've got our demographics. Now, we don't always want to look at our demographics. We don't need them all the time, but we need them ultimately when we are reporting. So we can have a demographic for age, or we can give the age of the child. We can do the gender. Important nowadays to also think about non-binary, so you can use FM and then NB for non-binary if you do have children who are presenting as non-binary. You can have race, so African, colored, Indian, white. You can have disability. Now, some funders really need those demographics. They want to know exactly how many children you've reached with disabilities, for example, or what races you're reaching, or what ages. So it's really important to get that information. But as I said, you only need to get it once. So you would get it when you would sign your child up, let's say at the beginning of the year, and you would add them to this list. Now, this is a very short list. I'm sure most programs will have at least 15 or 20 children in a group, maybe more. Maybe you've got several groups and you want to put them all on the same sheet. So you might have there, this is group 1, and then we have all the group 1s, and then we have group 2 beneath them, etc. Now, you can also, you'll see down here, here are some notes on the demographics. So where my highlight is currently. So that just is to remind you as to how to use the demographics. But as I said, you can also then hide these. So we don't need to look at them all the time, and we'll hide them in some of the other forms that we'll look at. So I'll show you that in the next one. What this does, though, is it shows you a year summary. So here you've got all your months, January, February, March, April, May, etc., all the way through to December. And what will happen is as you fill up the registers for the different months, so the January register, for example, is here. I'm going to just take off that highlight for now so you can see it. So this would be just for the month of January. Once you've filled out the month of January, it will total, and that total will appear in this January summary sheet. And I'll show you how to do that in a little while. But basically what it means is that then at the end of the year, you're able to see how many times did each child attend over the course of the year, how many different attendances did we have, and how many people attended in the month. Okay, and we can count this in different ways, and I'll show you how we can do that later. Now we go to the months, and I've set up this register so that you can use it for this year. Obviously, once we go into the calendar for the next year, you would need to change it so that it works in terms of the dates. I'm using orange for the, or this light sort of peachy color for the weekends, just so that you know where your weeks are. Some of you may have programs that only happen on Saturdays, for example. Then you would just keep these other ones blank. And in fact, you could hide these columns. I say hide rather than delete, because if you hide them, then this calendar becomes one that all you need to do is change where your weekends are, and you can use it again next year, right? So it's a very quick one to update. So don't necessarily delete anything from here. Rather say on the day, so let's say this is a Tuesday, it's the 2nd, so that was the first time that we might have had a class after the public holiday. We do the attendances here and we say a 1 if they attended and a 0 if they didn't, right? In the same way that for disability, if there's no disability, it's a 0, and if there's someone with a disability, it's a 1. Now, what you'll see is that the daily attendances are being totaled at the bottom there. So you can see I've got the Excel formula, which is sum, and then the brackets of the cells G5 to G7, which are the ones that we are calculating. And you'll see that if I change the amounts here, so let's say that Sibu actually did attend, then immediately that changes to a 3. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that maybe it's easier for you to see on your screen. So I'm going to make it 200%. And can you see that if I make a change here, so let's say nobody attended on the 2nd of January, you can see how those values are changing each time I add or subtract. Now, you'll also see that when we get to the end of the month, we have some totals. So for every child we have here, whoops, just gone a bit too far. For every child we have totals, right? So the first child attended 22 times, the next child only attended 16 times, the third child attended 22 times, etc. And then here we've got different kinds of sums. So here we've got all our demographics for that month. How many children attended? In this case, it's 3. How many separate attendances did we have? Okay, by separate attendances, I mean these 3 children between them attended 60 times together, right? And so you can also look at children reached in a month. In this case, it would be 3 because there were 3 children on this list who were reached and 3 of them attended at one point or another. You can also have the demographic, if we go back here, how many children with disabilities were reached. Well, we can calculate that particular column. We know that 1 child so far has a disability. How many sessions did we hold? It was 22. Now, these are all being used using different kinds of formula. So a good formula to know is this one, counter. What counter does is it counts if there is something in that particular column. So if there's a value in that particular row or column, so in other words, from G5 to AJ5, right? Then it will count that for you. So again, this is going to count. This is going to happen automatically. So let's say that I decide that there wasn't in fact a session on the 31st of January. Okay, it's still counting it. And why is it counting it? Because there's a value in there. So let's see if it changes now. Yes, there we go. So even the 0 is counted as a value, right? So the moment there's something in there, it will get counted. So counter, C-O-U-N-T-A, is a part of an Excel sum that you can use, which will just count up. It won't count up the numbers. It's not adding, but it is counting the columns or the rows that have something in them. So if we were to do a counter for these 3 here, the answer would be 3, not because 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, but because there are 3 rows which each have something in them. And equally, if I put a name in there or a star in there or something else, it would still count that, right? So we've got our January register. Now, if we go back to our year summary and we go to January, what you'll see is that I have linked it to that particular row. So January register AK6 is where it is linked. I'm going to take this out for a moment. I'm going to make that 0. And I'm going to do it again so you can see what I'm doing. I'm also going to make it a bit bigger so that you can see how I'm doing it. I'm going to make it 200%. So there we go. So now I want to link it to that particular sheet. I go equals. I go to January register. I click on January register and I click on the cell that I want. So I want that cell, Jan register AK5. And now you'll see that in the year summary sheet, I now have the right amount there. Okay, so what we need to be certain of is that these names are in the same order across every sheet. So this is very important why we needed to decide, are we going to be alphabetical in terms of first name, or are we going to be alphabetical in terms of surname? Once you've decided that, that's when you start to copy your names across to the other sheets. Okay, but now you're going to say to me that you can't get online every time to do this. And I agree with you, you can't necessarily get online every time to do this. So I'm going to show you how you can do this both manually and online. So let's take the March register for now. In this March register, you can see that we haven't added any values in yet. We just have the days, the dates, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a part of this to print. I am printing that section there. I think I can probably get 2 pages into my sheet that I'm going to print. And if you had a lot more names, you know, at some point you'd probably have a page break. So let's just see if we can in fact do this. So I'm going to go to Excel, I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Print. And then you probably won't be able to see this on your side because you're only seeing the block. But basically my print formula comes up and I am now seeing that at the moment it's portrait, which it can't be because this needs to be landscape. Okay. And I want to fit it onto one page. So make sure that you do that. Can you see how the page is showing you those dotted lines? We saw dotted lines for a moment. Those were the page breaks when it was a portrait orientation. Now that we've changed it to landscape, I can actually print out this whole section and it'll be on one page. So now I have one physical sheet that I can take into my class and I can say, Sibu, are you here? And I can go, yes. And I can just tick. And I can tick, tick, tick on my physical sheet the way I would normally. And then at the end of the week or at the end of the 2 weeks, I can bring those physical sheets to my computer and I can now, where there is a tick, I put in a value of 1. And where there is an absent, I put in a value of 0, right? So I'd be using my physical sheet, which is just one sheet of paper for at least 2 weeks, to fill in all the details. Now, let's say that you don't, in fact, have everyday classes. Maybe you only have 2 days a week. So then do what I said, hide those columns. So let's say that your classes are on Thursday and Friday only. So then we might want to go like this. We might want to go format, column, hide. Now, can you see how the 1st of March has been hidden because we only want to have the Thursday and the Friday? And then maybe we want to hide the weekend. Oops. Let's leave the weekend there for the moment because it's in a joined cell, and let's hide Monday to Wednesday, right? So we're going to go again, format, column, hide. And now we're only seeing the 9th and the 10th and the weekend. This cell is giving me problems because I merged it. So I'm going to unmerge it. And now if I wanted to hide the weekends as well, I could in fact hide the weekends. So now I'm choosing the weekend days, and I'm going to go to format, column, hide, and now we can't see that either. So now all we have are the Thursday, Friday, etc. And you can do this for your month before you print, right? So maybe now you're going to get a lot more days onto your single printed sheet because you're hiding a whole lot of columns, and you'll only have the columns that are relevant to you. So then you will again, you can select the section that you want to print. So let's imagine it's a bit longer. We've got more names in there. Maybe we've got 30 names or something like that. And we're going to print up until maybe that far. right, however far we want to print. So the section that we highlight will be the section that we then print. And so you can see at the end, again, we've got totals. Now here, we haven't added in any attendances yet. So these cells, although they are summing up everything in that section, it's a naught because we haven't added anything in. So this becomes a very easy way both to print out your registers and to then keep your data and to be able to instantly calculate your data. So I will be sending you this version. Now, let's say that you are now wanting to replace this version with your names, right? You don't have Sibu Charlie, you have whoever you have. So let's say you have Yvette Hardy, okay? So what you will do is you will put in your names and you'll put in the age, and maybe she's female, and maybe she's white, and maybe she has a disability, all right? So you do that, you do those demographics. You would change these details. Obviously, you'd also, I will send you a blank form, but you will not have any of these details in them already. But then you get to the next columns here. Just make sure that you are copying all the formula that are in the section below, all right? So before you put in your new name, so let's say we're going to add Masikole Teshu, right? And Masi is 7, and he's male, he's African, and he doesn't have a disability, okay? So, but what I've done is I have ensured that all of my formula are here, because can you see how if you look up at what's showing in the formula bar, you will see that it's saying March register, etc. So all of those are connected. So you need to make certain that it is all connected and set up. Of course, you can do this yourselves as well. If you have any knowledge of Excel, you can set it up yourselves, but basically we've made it easy for you by creating this register for you to use. We would really like you to start using proper registers like this in order to be able to give us your exact reach of children from March. So please take your manual registers that you've been using and fill in onto this sheet what has already happened. And you can use the last 2 months as practice months, because I'm sure you do have physical registers that you can fill in here, but then ultimately you will send us your online register. So it becomes a very easy way for you to share your information with us. I hope you find that helpful. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out and to ask us, and we'll help you, and your provincial coordinators will help you with utilizing this attendance register. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day further.